Welcome, everyone, to Keep It Spiritually Simple. I'm your host, Sandra McEllis, and I am so excited today. I've brought on my friend, Nurse Ashely Lee, and we're going to talk about the topic of addiction. And this is a series I'm going to be doing with multiple guests, with multiple different pathways to expand our understanding a little bit deeper into the world of addiction. And so, please don't miss any of our episodes. So be sure to hit the like, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Can't say that enough. Comment and share button so you don't miss any of the upcoming shows. So, anyway, I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to my friend Ashely. Hello, Ashely.
Oh, hello. I'm so grateful and so excited to be here with you inside the KISS environment, right? Keep it
Yes.
spiritually simple.
Mhm.
And let's keep it simple. Like, thank you for inviting me in onto the forum of the topic of addiction and to start that series off, right? So where would you like us to start, Sandy? What tickled your funny bone to excite yourself in the realm of creating a platform for addiction? Like
Thank you.
what got you started? And I'd love to start in that space.
Okay. Um, my own personal journey of having a daughter that struggles and has struggled, and it's always been my quiet secret. I do not discuss it. Anyone asks me how she's doing, I go, she's fine. She's just busy figuring out her life. And recently, I would say, as the summertime, her and I started talking a little bit more. And so the gateway opened up to feeling triggered. Oh dear, is the ball going to fall? Is it all going to start over again? And all that. And I had to really work on my own control dials and detachment of that. But what evolved from that is spirit began to push me to understanding addiction a little bit more, understand the dopamine, understand the need for normalcy. It's not just a need to get high, to understand the different spectrums of people who have been diagnosed with ADD or high functioning autism or so on and so forth. But so many contributors, not just trauma, right? Not just habit. So many contributors. So it started softening me to going, whoa. And then I started looking at my own issues. I'm like, well, I got a sweet tooth. I eat sugar, but I feel like I've got control of it, right? But that's just control on the dial of my own addiction, right? And so it just led me further and further to the end of 2025, where spirit was just hitting me in the head saying, Sandy, it's time to open up the pathways of understanding and expand the awareness of what addiction is, what it can be, what it can be interpreted as, what helpful things can we do, people's personal journeys, suggestions, those kinds of things, but understanding it more from not just the scientific point of view and the personal point of view, but bringing it into the heart center point of view as well.
You mentioned two words around the opportunity to gain access to the heart center. And one was seeking comfort, and one was control. And how do we control our lives to receive that comfort? Let's start there because I think it's really valuable to start on the surface where most people are. Most people are in our humanity, and I've looked at many, many cultures, socioeconomic environments, and other things like first class, middle class, and bottom class, if we could call it that, or poverty, middle class, and elite, one percenters, this kind of thing. Then also we could talk about different geographical environments that have, and that everyone, every human has a level of addiction. So it's a great topic to begin to untangle and unwind and discern the different distinctions inside of it so that we could become what you shared, as you said, softening, which is compassionate, right? Our ability to be compassionate. And we don't mean forgiving, we mean not having any judgments about it so that we can be present, right? Like here, silent, silence our mind, our ideas of what we believe addiction is and isn't, and be present with the person, you and I and us, the listeners, who are diving in personally and interpersonally with others about the realm of addiction. So let's start with comfort and control. So, on the surface, we want to feel comfortable. Where, Sandy, do we mostly feel want to feel comfortable?
I think just within our own skin, just have some sort of a balance that we consider comforting or
In our
comfortable,
own
and
skin.
we feel
Yeah,
safe in our own skin,
yeah.
right?
So in our own skin is a beautiful way to say it goes more deeper than the physical, doesn't it? So in our own skin physically, like I feel comfortable, in my skin, my face feels comfortable, my body feels comfortable. But also in our skin could mean our mind, our mood, our attitude, our mindset, our thought forms are comfortable too. And then also inspirited, like right here we are in this platform, keep it spiritually simple, is we also want to be simply inspirited, don't we? Having access to all the things we came here to be and do in the world. So, how do we get comfortable in our skin in these kind of four categories, if you could call it physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual? I call it PEMS as a way to categorize these different ways of embodying our true nature, ourselves. So let's start with physical in our skin. How do we want to be comfortable? You talked a little bit about it. You get addicted sometimes to sugar. So you want to be comfortable with what?
I like to be comfortable with the amount that I'm eating. And then actually, as I was diving down this pathway of addiction, I started to ask myself, what is that sugar doing to me mentally, physically, chemistry? And what am I looking to achieve when I eat it? And when I started asking myself that question, I started learning a little bit about the dopamine, serotonin. And I thought, well, where am I in my day? And, where's my barometer? And what am I reaching for? And is it the healthiest thing that I'm reaching for? Or do I want to bypass it right now? Maybe save that till later. Because if I tell myself no and go into denial, I may want to grab at it even harder because I'm going to have this little fist fight in my brain. Yes, you want it. No, you don't. Yes, you do. Kind of thing. And but if I say, I'll save that for later. I'll save it for later.
Right? And you just demonstrated control.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive into for a moment a little bit about control. Most people say I don't control my life and I don't control things and I don't control people and I don't control myself and I have what I want when I want and all of these things. But when you were 2, who taught you how to walk?
Well, that's a really good question because I think I always thought the brain kind of tells the body you're ready to stand up.
Sometimes some infants are that way and some are not. I could say that around being around thousands of infants in certain areas. So I haven't definitely done infants categorization about the needing control to walk. But basically, somewhere we have something in our environment that helps us learn how to have control of our body, i.e., moving it, right? So putting one foot in front of the other and going from crawling maybe, from sitting to standing, and then cruising the furniture, and then or cruising whatever's in our environment to hold on to something, and then learning balance and to walk. And so we don't realize it, but we categorize our brain and our nervous system inside our physical body to learn how to literally control the movements of our body in our world. And so that's what you were doing. You were controlling movements in your body as an adult around the idea and the concept of sugar and whether you wanted to put it in your body or not. Right?
So I
So
taught
we
myself to walk away.
you taught yourself to walk away. Exactly. Okay. And so then now in the mind, because you're a grown up and you can have abstract thinking with your control measures, is what did you choose? You choose, do I choose this? Do I not choose this? Do I choose it for later? Do I choose it now? And that goes into another realm that goes just a little bit deeper than the surface, right? We could just be right at the surface of the water of the big iceberg called addiction. So we're looking sometimes at the above, what's in front of us, what's the story, But then if we go to the surface of the water or go deeper, what do we look at next when you talked about choosing or controlling your body either to intake the sugar or not intake the sugar? What's a little bit deeper from that? You broached it just for a moment there.
I don't know. You may have to remind me.
It's right, right? It just completely you did a great job. It goes completely out of our mind. We're like, what? I just decided to not have sugar, so then I'm on to the next thing. But we really don't take a moment to look at what is driving our experience. Like you brought it up in your consciousness earlier, or your awareness, right? Oh, I'm choosing sugar. Do I choose it or do I choose it? And so then we bring in control to decide what it is we're going to do. But what if we started to move away from all of that? Because what brought you to wanting to have the sugar in the first place, and then becoming aware that you have a choice or control? What was leading you to the sugar in the first place? Was it
So
the
that
need to
was
be
that was
satiated?
my question. Was it a dopamine response? Was I looking for a serotonin response? Was I low and I was looking for a high? And where was I in my day that, and I started thinking about it, and then I was able to kind of track my recent record of like, oh, you know what? About this time of the day, that's when like these little gremlins rise, and then you know, and then out of habit, sometimes you just pick something up and you eat it and you walk away. And I didn't want this mindless uh thing not being addressed
So
because
you so you wanted that to be you wanted to become aware of your choices or your non-choices.
yes.
Is that correct? Okay, great. So now that's awesome. So that's once you arrived at the sugar. I'm going to go back on the timeline just a teeny bit to even what incited you or got you excited, or whatever the motivation was to go to the sugar in the first place. What's that? Because that's in the realm that I'd love to talk to, and maybe it's just below the surface of the water, called the need for satiation, to be fulfilled,
Yes.
to experience value, to find the sweetness of life that maybe earlier in the day you didn't have much because you gave, and expected something in return. And yet you're in an environment that isn't used to doing that, maybe. They're used to receiving, but they're not used to maybe sharing. So they're used to you being of service and giving your service to them, who whatever that is, however that is. It could be the washing machine and our laundry. It could be service to others. It could be all kinds of different things. But when we get depleted because we give, and never receive anything in return, we feel depleted. And when we feel depleted, we want to be satiated. So we feel hungry, we feel tired, we feel sugarless, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
receiving the sweetness of life, which is when we share our love and our brilliance with others and receive nothing in return, the sweetness kind of diminishes, right? So this is where we get into this idea of satiation. I deserve a cookie. I deserve a sweet. I deserve that pick me up in late afternoon, right? You timed
Yes.
it perfectly, right? Like closer to the near end of the day. And then it's funny because our children kind of copy us too, and they want a cookie
Yes.
at 4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon,
Yes.
and then we miss the timing of dinner. Although in America we kind of do it differently. Like other countries have figured this out a little bit more than we have maybe in America. Okay, but in the processes we look at it is culturally, where are you at? Sociologically, where are you at? What have you learned as far as, we call it, cognitive biases or belief systems, thought forms of what gets you to that sugar? So in your example here, which is awesome because it's very typical for everybody, right? Is what brought you, now going a little bit deeper, what brought you to the sugar in its first place?
I think as a child we weren't raised on sugar, but when we were able to have it, it was a treat. It was just something special. So it wasn't attainable during the day or for most days. So it was something um, Like, for example, only on Friday nights were we allowed to have a soda and make homemade popcorn and watch TV. So the soda was the sugar, right?
Yeah.
And then if my mom would allow us to have sugar, she would have us make it. So I baked a lot as a kid, a lot. Um, and then I didn't eat it because I was busy working making it. That's the weird thing. Everyone else devoured it. But I was looking at it more for a reward, a treat.
Okay. So reward and a treat. When you're depleted, is that when we look more for rewards and treats? Or if you were full and satiated, that means that your sugar needs were taken care of. Your dopamine's regulated, your serotonin's amazing, even oxytocin, right? That happy neurotransmitter and happy biochemistry in our body. If you were happy, would you even focus on going to sugar?
For me, no.
For
For
most
no.
people, I sense that's true. Unless we have another kind of addiction with sugar, right? We could have a depletion of insulin and we could have other kind of things going on. But typically, we go to look for something that we're addicted to because we're depleted. And then we want to be satiated. We want to be full of that depletion, right? We want to fill our body back up. We want to bring the energy back in, whatever that energy is. And it could be physiological sugar, like we could be busy doing calculus all day, right? Brain activity all day, all day, all day. And we do get sugar depleted or carbohydrate depleted, right? Simple carbohydrates, we get depleted. And so, what do people who intensely think all day? They want to eat food, right? So they want to recover that energy because the brain uses up so much energy in a physical level. So would they learn to replace and replenish? Okay, so how do you replace and replenish without being addicted and I need to have that because I'm depleted? How do you support that throughout the day?
Well, I would probably say for me, I would make a schedule where I would stop and give myself something so that I maintain the balance of my insulin glucose within the body so that I didn't hit a rock bottom or get close to it where then I reach for the unnecessaries.
That's awesome. Okay, so hitting rock bottom, I think that's a valuable terminology too in the realm of addiction. When we hit rock bottom, what do? We regress. We kind of go back to what worked earlier in our lives. So we go back. But if we got in this now moment to a space of depletion, to the point where we had to implement addiction to get our needs met, what in the past didn't we do that we're regressing to now? We remember, let's use sugar as an example. When right? When I don't get my needs met, and my mom, let's say I'm a kid, and I don't get my needs met, and my mom isn't paying attention to me, and I want her to be sweet to me. I want her to be cuddly. I want her to smile at me. I want her to be generous and giving and loving. But she's too depleted. She's got too much laundry and all these other things I'm not even considering because I'm young. Okay, so now I'm learning in the past that when I do what? Throw a tantrum, get upset, get irritated, start crying. Mm, I want to go into the world of pity. I'm going to recruit pity from my mom to be able to get some sugar because she's not willing to give me any sugar. I need to get it from the candy or the cookie or the cake or ice cream or whatever it is that's got a lot of sugar in it, right? Could just be juice, right? Orange juice. It's got a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sugar. Apple juice got a lot of sugar. Whatever it is, right? That's got that sweetness because I needed to replace it from my mom's absence of providing that. And then my mom didn't teach me how to provide it for myself, right? So there you go. So that's how when we go back in our world, we didn't really solve our problem, right? Back then. We just made what you said earlier is defensive mechanisms or coping mechanisms to deal with what we couldn't deal with. So I'm here wanting to display the opportunity and the diversity of what addiction can really mean, just on a personal level. our own personal selves on this level and looking at how we developed addiction in our lives, because all of us have it on one level or another. It's just some of us get a little further in the addiction realm and it causes damage. It causes damage physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it can cause damage interrelationally with other people. But here we're going to keep it spiritually simple. And today, focus really on who it is inside of ourselves and how it is inside of ourselves that these addictions that limit our ability to progress forward impact us. So, for example, when you went to the sugar part, what is the wanting to create sugar in that moment that you went to go decide whether you were going to have it or not? But what brought you to that sugar interpersonally, personally for yourself, about what was the need you wanted to fulfill that you didn't feel like you could fulfill without the sugar?
Well, I never got that deep into thinking about it. I don't know that I was aware of any brain chemistry changes when I would eat it. I just know that it felt, um, and I don't want to use the word self-empowering, but it felt like I was satisfying something even into the unknown, right? It felt good
Satisfying
on
something into the unknown. I
into the
love that.
unknown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my taste buds might recognize it, but then I also got to the point where I'd be like, how long did I chew that, whatever that sweetness was? Or did I just stuff it in there, suck a little sugar out, and get the taste buds alert and then swallow it and then do it again and again until whatever it was I was eating, it was gone. Um, so that's something I've become more and more aware of. Um, like maybe if I let it linger in my mouth longer and really, ask and talk to what it is that I'm eating, maybe I wouldn't have a second bite.
Clear. Okay, wow. That's really good. So you're looking at you're saying most of the time you don't look at what's deeper going on. Like
Correct.
what brought me to that thing of whatever I'm addicted to. So it doesn't have to be sugar, right? It could be athletics. It could be
Salt, it
um,
could be anything. Could be
it could
anything.
be salt.
Could be
It
a
could
carb. A
be
lot of people crave bread.
right.
We're looking for something.
I got the word that came in for me. It was Jabberwocky talk. So jabbermouth. Like, some people in our lives could be we want to talk a lot, right? Because we have a lot to say or we have a lot to express. And we don't realize we could have a deep-seated feeling of I never get to say what I want to say. I never get to say what I want to express or share, or I never get to share my brilliance and my wisdom with the world. And so a lot of times we can get addicted to that too, right? So there's many forms of even physical addiction that impact us, including our mental state, right?
That was like, good point, good point, good point. That little vibration.
And then a little vibration from the phone. It's
I
kind of
know
funny.
it
I'm
was
like,
like, good point, good point. Really buzz, buzz, buzz.
right, right. So
Yeah.
what is it? What is that? We're calling into our energetic field, right? Distractions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we like I think the one thing that probably most people don't realize, at least nowadays in 2026, right, in this moment, we're experiencing distractions on enormous levels, right? So I'm kind of grateful that came in and it was a spam call too, which is even funnier, right? So it's like, who wants to take from us to be able to be deceptive in order to achieve something that we want, right? That's what spamming is all about, right? In a way, if you're really spamming.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, we're not really spamming. We're actually trying to connect with each other, and our digital platforms act funny. Why? Because most people don't want to be bothered, right? They want to be quiet. They want to be silent. They want to be supported. They want to be loved. They want to be fed, nurtured, nourished. And so when that hasn't happened, maybe when we were younger or even nowadays, right? How do we fulfill that need without bringing in distractions to support it?
Did you freeze or are you asking me a question?
I'm asking you a question. That was awesome. Sometimes I ask long-winded questions. The reason as to creating a long-winded question is to set up the context or the environment a little bit so we can drop into the question, track it a little bit, the environment of the question, so that we can answer it wholeheartedly. And what are we doing here? We're not answering it to each other and to our audience, are we? We're learning how to answer these questions inside ourselves because that's what's going to give us access to helping us heal addiction. If we can't access what's happening inside of ourselves, we can't access how to heal ourselves. It's not possible. We can tell other people how to help us heal. We can have books and seminars and certifications and all these things that can tell us how to heal. It doesn't really work, does it? It's
No, and I want to acknowledge the fact that, what you were just saying started to um, percolate some emotion. It was bringing up like from the gut all the way up through my throat, making my eyes get teary because it was such a powerful thing that you were just saying. Um, so anyway, go ahead. I just want to acknowledge that. I'm
Thank
sure.
you. Well,
Yeah.
right. So, well, let's hold on to this for just a moment because what if you took a moment to notice you're having some transformation, some realization, right, on a deeper level. So if we took a moment, I'll take a moment, and our audience can take a moment too. Just close your eyes for just a moment. If you're driving, please don't do that.
Please
But
don't.
if you're hanging out in a safe space, take a moment to close your eyes. And if you're driving, just keep your eyes open, pay attention, and breathe in the love that you are. And in supporting that funny feeling in your gut, for you, Sandy, what would it like to share? What would it like to say? What's ready to leave your body? But on its way out, you can acknowledge it. Give it love and nurturing, appreciation that it had been there, and that maybe it doesn't have to be there anymore. So something you swallowed, something you ingested. And it doesn't have to be physical either. It can be mental. And in this case, you said emotional. So, whose or what emotions did you swallow that can now come up around the realm of addiction?
Yeah, I was feeling like my inner child was saying, needy, needy, I need. And that was coming up for me really deep viscerally, in that low gut. And it's nice and warm and airy fairy right now because it's saying, thanks for hearing me, because I can come up and out and leave now because your needs are being met because of the choices that you're making to better yourself by acknowledging the whatever primal inner scream, really, that was coming up in the form of almost like a hand coming all the way up from my gut out my mouth going, gimme, 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 gimme. Like, give me a cookie. Seriously, it's like,
That's so
yeah,
cute.
I can see it like come all the way up, and the hand's coming out. It's like a small child's hand going, give me a cookie, give me some candy, give me this, give me this. Just okay, I can be quiet now. So wherever that came from,
Isn't that cute?
yes, but it brought tears to my eyes.
Oh, that's so cute. And thank
Mm.
you for sharing. Thank you for sharing with yourself. Overtly, like outwardly, like either, with words or with words in your head, but you're sharing it with yourself. Thank you for sharing it with me, and thank you for sharing it with us, because I think it's so valuable. We don't realize what stays hidden or repressed or regressed in our physical body that impacts our modern day, this now moment's physiology, is those past experiences. So when that inner child, however age, and it was probably a conglomeration of ages, right, and moments, but good job collaborating it all together, and then sharing what did that part of you, that whole inner child part of you want? It wanted sugar and a cookie and this and that, and then And then it was told it will be quiet. So that's great. So you were satiated, maybe. I know many parents that satiate their children with candy. And I say, please stop being the sugar parent, sugar daddy, sugar mama, whatever it is, to quiet the child. We're teaching them bad eating habits to begin with, but many, many other aspects of things that don't get addressed when we just hand them sugar to shut up and stop crying or whining or carrying on or throwing a tantrum, right? And I know many of them. And I said, that's not a good way to train or support the training or steward a child into recognizing what their needs are and what they aren't. So, what were your needs, as you could illustrate to others, that created that need that of that hand that came out of your mouth? That was so beautiful. I wanted a cookie and candy and all that. What did
Well,
she want?
it's interesting because, I don't really recognize it as as it being like just me or my inner. It's almost like a piece of energy where that is deep in my gut that has this memory of I need attention. It's not so much that I need to be heard, but I just need attention, or I need some love, and I'm giving myself some love through the sugar, which of course we know chemistry changes and we feel this pleasure reward system. But that's what it felt like. It felt like I need attention, and the only way I get attention or feel like it's been satisfied is if I have something sweet. And then it calms that emotional need of maybe I just need a hug. Maybe I need a break. Maybe I just need some fresh air and sunshine, some playtime, right? And
Yes,
but the reward happens to come in the form of a cookie, cake, or candy or something.
right. Great tuning in. Wow, that's awesome. And I have a question for you, for our audience especially, is was that tuning in hard?
No, because I mean, you know, everybody knows when we do these shows, everything's intuitive. You and I didn't research anything before we came on here, so I had no clue
Nothing.
how this was going to go. So it's not like I had a preempted thought that I would bring up later. Um, it was just when you were talking about something else, I could feel this thing in my lower part of my gut, like just above the pubic bone in that second chakra, which is your creative chakra. But it was so deep, and it was just this little tingling. And when I tuned into it, it was like that inner child of, I need attention, I need. And instead of the inner child coming up and out, a hand just came up like, give me some food, Seymour. Like, whoa.
That's
And then it
awesome.
went back down and like just closed back up. It's like, I'll be back.
That's so cute. It's like
Yeah.
Grover or the Cookie Monster coming out, right? And wanting something and then
Mhm.
coming back in.
Yes.
So that's like it's really cute, right? And it's really kind of fun. It's a very creative way of describing when your addictions kind of come out, okay? Or at least the sugar one. That's awesome, right? And other
Yeah.
ones may come out in other ways, right? But
Mhm.
how do we you mentioned something really beautiful there is reward and pleasure. Okay, so that's all on one side of the reward and punishment model, right?
Yes.
So we have a lot of punishments that we deal with or consequences that we deal with. And a lot of times we collapse them inside our needs. So, for example, let's go back to a younger kid issue. I need attention, and I want my mom or somebody, the care provider in the home, to help to play with me because I don't know how to work all my blocks or my toys. And so I want somebody to come play with me. So I have a need, right? I want, and then I try to play it myself. And then I'm told orally, go play by yourself, go figure it out. You can do it, blah, 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 right? You get the rah, rah, rah treatment. And then you go in there and you're like, I can't do it. I don't know what to do. And then our want turns into a need. And then we come back out, and what do we do with our need? It depends on our age, but the younger we go, the more tantrumy we get, or more emotional we get, or we get more hysterical, right? Some of us can go all the way to hysteria. Okay, so when we do that, we lose control of our body, our mind, our emotions, because we can't achieve what we want to achieve. So we go to an outside source, a need, to help us learn how or do how, right? Or make this situation happen. So when you do that inside of the realm of punishment and pleasure, but you went from a want and then you got hysterical or emotional, and you went to a need, and then you went to a behavior pattern called a tantrum. So now you have a parent that's like, what? And how do I deal with this? And now you're going to punish the child for having a tantrum, right? Or many parents do and don't realize what it's about. Okay. So then all of a sudden, if I throw a tantrum or I have a deep need and that isn't getting satiated, isn't getting met, isn't getting fulfilled, then I get what? I get disruptive, right? And so when I get disruptive, I get a punishment from the environment, other people usually. Maybe I'll get it if I get super disruptive and start destroying items around the house. I might punish myself because I broke the phone or I punched the wall or whatever it is that we end up expressing in a violent way because we haven't got our needs met. Okay. So we don't realize the things that trigger us and then us going into the next step and the next step and the next step. And it's valuable as adults to help us unwind all this so we can understand where to intervene. And when we get very conscious with it, and I don't mean over psychoanalytical, it's just what happened is our fury of losing control got out of hand. And so we don't know how to and I want to move the word from control to mastery. We don't know how to master our environments, maybe even master our physical bodies, maybe even master our thoughts. So instead of trying to control, manipulate, and dominate them, which is something we're dealing with on a global scale right now in humanity, in 2026, doesn't matter what socioeconomic environment we're in, we're dealing with control, manipulation, and domination. And so you and Spirit coming in with you to create a platform that discusses addiction is very helpful on a global scale inside of humanity, on a national scale inside of different cultured countries, on a family scale, a community scale, and then a singular scale of each one of us. And so, starting this way in this series, in this environment of just talking about us individually, how did I construct my whole life and my body into forms of addiction that were based upon the need to control my life in order to receive what I need? Right? So I
Mhm.
backed it up a little bit, right? And then broke down some of these spaces and pieces. You had an amazing energetic shift inside your body to realize. So if that little part of you, that inner child comes up like a hand again, and I need, now what are you going to be? Because you've had this experience right here. When that little hand comes, if it comes about, it may not, it may be completely healed and that never happens to you again. But if it does, for some particular reason or some particular trigger, what will you do with that hand coming out of your mouth again?
I think I would ask I think I would ask, what are you reaching for?
That's a good one.
Like what are you trying what are you trying to communicate? I think I would try to have some dialogue there a little bit. And for me personally, I would probably take her for a walk away from any sugar till I can figure that out. So
I think that's
I don't hit override and just
right. And what if though too that hand coming out is not a make wrong or a bad thing?
correct. It's not.
It's not, is it? It's
No,
kind of cute and
no.
it's kind of awesome and it's kind of tender too. It may
Hmm.
come out a little bit, may have some sharp fangs on it that day, right? Like I'm getting that cookie. Because, man, our bakeries in different places have some good stuff, right? Even low sugar, monk fruit is an amazing sugar that has low
Hmm.
glycemic index. There's all kinds of stuff out there that's awesome. But that's not what we're dealing with, right? Is good ingredients. We're dealing with what is wanting you to even seek that kind of ingredient, right? Or that kind of
Yes.
situation. And so what is it that you would be next time? You would be compassionate, right? Less judgmental.
Compassionate, yes, and I would look at the energy of it. I look at this as an energy trying to have a communication with me versus a little person, right? Because it's a part of me that has been stored in the physical, emotional, spiritual body, in the mental body. So it's getting triggered, and then it's coming up in the form of a hand and saying, "Hey, feed me a little something so I can go dormant." Right?
That's
I'll go be
awesome.
quiet in the corner, and I'll be quiet. But I'll be back. But for now, I'll be quiet, right? I'm not flailing. I'm not
Yeah.
flailing. I'm not creating a temper tantrum of imbalance within my mental, physical, and emotional body. So it's a temporary um, dousing of the fire, but the fire is still underneath all of that.
It's really beautifully shared. So now when that hand comes out, it's more like that's not something you could fear or you'd make wrong or be bad. It's just like that, definitely that aspect of you has a need that hasn't been addressed. So now when it comes out and it has a need and you're going to move it maybe away from the satiation aspect of sugar, it gives you a point, right? Is to say, do you want sweetness in life? Do you want people to be sweet to you, to be kind to you, to reciprocate what it is that you've been giving them, right? So, how do we create that? How do we go from that state of addiction to reversing it and moving it through to another state of success and pleasure? And we could call it reward. I kind of want to move away from the reward and punishment model and move into the interpersonal responsibility model. In
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii, we call it kuleana,
Mm-hmm.
being responsible. So if that hand comes out, now there's another aspect of you witnessing it and noticing it and then going to give it comfort and support. But then how do you take interpersonal responsibility? So most people would be like, don't have that sugar. It's not good. It's a bad thing. You're going to get fat. Whatever, all those things. Instead of that, what would you do next in this space if that aspect of you came out again? How would you redirect and reframe that so that that moment is a healing and transcendent moment for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're talking about the hand smacking, I'm thinking of the old days of probably if I knew there was a hand coming up, I would have cut it off, right?
Okay.
I would have been like, cousin, what would it be? Thing? What was that thing in the Adams family? Like, I don't
Yep,
think
right.
so.
Right,
And
right.
beat it,
Right.
Um, but now I think I would probably love the hand. I would probably nurture the hand and say, hey, what are we looking for? What are we looking for? What do we want? What do we think we want? And then let's rethink how we feel what we want, right? And so I think I would have some sort of whatever, vocabulary I have to translate and have some dialogue.
That's really, really beautiful. And so let's take an example. You brought up an example, and maybe you've experienced it exactly that way. But you were going for the sugar. You realized that you were controlling yourself, and now we're going to shift it to mastering yourself. So you're becoming more aware. You realized what triggered you. So what was the trigger in that example, so to speak? You can make up something or bring something in from the past. I'm just interested in going through that because the trigger is going to give you the clue to be able to work on reframing it.
Well, I mean, I think some of it's just not being fulfilled, like not, so there's some empty space somewhere that's not having fulfillment, and I've just let it go long enough and just using sugar to again to extinguish or calm it down. Um, and then also sometimes I would find myself getting angry at the sugar. I bought it. It's in my house. Why am I getting angry at it and throwing it in the trash and saying, you're not coming here anymore? Exit, seriously, exit
Yeah.
and walk away. And then, a couple days later, it's something like that's back in my house again, you know? So
And
this
you're
is
the
the
only one living there, right?
correct. And this is the
Yeah.
conundrum. This is the conundrum that you and the habit forming that you get. So there would be this timing chain, that would be like, gimme, gimme, gimme. But again, I mean, I even forget the question that you asked now, but I just know for me, if it
What was
comes
the
up,
trigger? What was the trigger? So you went into
fulfillment.
fulfillment.
I think probably being so busy giving to my multiple jobs and multitasking on the phone and handling three or four things at one time, generally putting out fires for others on top of friendships who are needy, 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 right? And they need Sandy's wisdom, 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 wisdom. And yet there's nobody out there that is that way for me. So I think sometimes I come up and I have voids and I'm a little bit empty. And so the fulfillment isn't there. So instead of having this inner knowing of what's going on and creating it, I go hit a distraction, which would be a instant gratification fix, which would be sugar for
There you go.
me.
There you go. You like summed it up in a lot of ways, and now that you've summed it up in this way in this moment, if it happens to you again, you now have the opportunity to go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper each and every time, so that you're peeling away the layers of what really constituted or created this thing called addiction. Let's call it going to the sugar. What was it in the old days? The sugar jar, right? Or it
Sugar
wasn't the
bowl,
can, the
sugar
sugar
bowl.
bowl. We
Mm-hmm.
had one of those. It was
Mm-hmm.
plastic too in the 60s.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was kind of funny. The 1960s, by the way, just
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in case this
Yeah.
video lasts 40 more years into existence, right? We'll be in the 2060s. Okay, but
Yeah.
we might still have the same problem, but that's what we're addressing here is maybe in the 2060s we won't have the sugar bowl the same way that we had it in the
Mm-hmm.
1960s, right? Kind of funny to look at that being in the middle of this history being unfolded.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that process, you mentioned something really, really, really beautiful is first of all, the lack of fulfillment. So you went into lack consciousness that fed your addiction. Okay. And so then I love that you get rid of the sugar and then you put it back and somehow magically it comes back in. I was like, that's cool. I see
Mm-hmm.
that happening all the time in my house and I'm not alone in my house, but I just witness it and I'm like, wow, that's so funny. How did that get back in here? And I didn't realize that it was an addiction that somebody else was needing to feed or have on standby in the cabinet,
Yes.
right? That's awesome. We do that with medications too, right?
Yes, we do. I was just about to say that. Just in case I need extra bandages or extra Motrin or extra cough syrup, just in case.
Just in case. So maybe all of those just in cases just have maybe even a smidge of addiction to them, right? Addiction for what? Safety, security, and familiarity. And that's what we're creatures of. That's how we've learned how to learn, is making sure that everything's safe, secure, and familiar. And that's when we feel nourished and nurtured. And so, and even sometimes protected. I'm protected because I got some sugar in a cabinet. So on that rainy day or that day that I'm not getting fulfilled, sugar is there, right? And so it's fascinating. So how do we, and you mentioned something that I think is really valuable. We have habits. And so I invite everyone, maybe humanity, just for 10 years or so. It doesn't have to be super long, but let's undo habits. Good habits, bad habits, healthy habits, unhealthy habits. Let's undo habits altogether and unhabitize ourselves in the senses that we're completely awake, alert, alive, and aware every moment of the day so that we can actually get out of addictions, get out of the need to control, manipulate, and dominate, move through reward and punishment models so that we can be completely interpersonally responsible for every thought, every action, every emotion we have that fulfills our physical lives. So like how could we do that? I think it's a journey. It's not something that just, we go like this and everything's better.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some people believe that that could happen. But I invite everyone to really move into moving out of habits so that you haven't automated your thinking. I know we still do it when we drive. I know we still do it maybe when we shower, and especially maybe when we brush our teeth. But let's unautomate some of the easy things that aren't going to disrupt our total thinking patterns. and then move into new thinking patterns. Is how would I like to brush my teeth? Maybe I'll start on the left side versus the right side that I always start on, or maybe I'll start on the top versus starting on the bottom. I don't know. Just shifting it up, because when we do something small and easy that's non-threatening, what happens is it starts creating new neural pathways for us to do things differently. So if we pick easy old habits that we become aware of and shifting them up, we become alert, awake, alive, and aware of new patterns that we could create. We could drive a new pathway to the same journey, the same destination. We could change the journey and have the same destination. So this is one way that we unravel old thoughts that no longer serve us, is we're creating the same destination or the same goal or the same success level, but how we get there is going to be reorganized so that addiction isn't part of that process that takes over us. Because right now in 2026, we're kind of upset about mind control and businesses and marketplace and different things that control us. I used to make a joke. I'm going to make a joke about two fast food places. Which do you choose, McDonald's or Carl's Jr.? Right? And you're like, I choose none of them.
Yeah.
because, but see, we don't really have a choice, right? We believe we have choices, but we don't. So now let's get into the mode, instead of reacting and responding to things, is learning how to co-create and primary create our environments so that we do have conscious choice. We do have the ability to take full responsibility for what we experience. Because when we can take full responsibility for everything we experience, complaining, blaming, and shaming naturally dissipates and goes away from our experience. We start becoming present. We start becoming aware. We start becoming silent in our mind instead of trying to figure everything out. And we start to listen more deeply to ourselves and each other. And there we can be much more present to receiving and then sharing generously. And then that way, maybe everybody on the planet will never be depleted. We might run out of a little bit of energy if we run down the mountain fast or we run up the mountain fast, right? We might lose our breath and have to catch it again. But what if that was intentional and a choice? We knew we would get a little winded, and so that's okay. We can stop, rebalance, and get unwinded, right? So that's us stressing our body intentionally, learning to be adaptive. And all of those things are measures to help us singularly, individually start reducing and releasing the need for control, which leads us to addiction.
Mm.
How does that sound?
I'm literally mesmerized by all of this. And there's, as much as I'd like to come back and make comments about every little thing that you said, I feel like we just got to leave it here.
Isn't it awesome?
I think we just need to leave all of that here. And this is going to be one of those episodes where people are going to go back and re-listen to it and share it, because I'm literally blown away at how powerful our communication is here and what we've shared and how it's expanded yourself, expanded me, and I'm sure the viewers are going to feel the same way. So I'm going to shut my face and
You're going to
and
love your face. I love your
I
face.
I'm just going to just it's going to be quiet.
It's a wow, isn't it?
It
We
is.
have we have access to healing ourselves.
We do.
And thank you for creating a platform of keeping it spiritually simple.
Thank you, sister. And thank you for coming on. And I cannot wait to do the next episode. We're going to, as soon as we sign off here, we're going to get it on the book.
All right.
So thank you for tuning in, everyone. And we really do appreciate subscriptions and likes and comments. And hey, if you've got a question, please put it in the comments and maybe Ashely can answer something, or we can feed into it, or spur off of it the next time we have a go around. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. And Ashely, don't go anywhere, but just say goodbye to the audience.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. It was exciting to be here with you, and I could really feel you in my heart. I can say probably for Sandy too, that's true. we can feel our audience, and it's just so powerful to come together and collaborate through these very distinctive conversations.
Mm. All right, Ashley, I'll see you on the next video. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.